BFSI, it would appear. The only non-BFSI guy is the moderator, so pardon me if I make some slip-ups in the questions. Well, we are connected, real estate, yeah, fair enough. And I think it was a very interesting start to the session, both the pledge at the beginning, which Shubhajit made us take. I think that was a new one for me, so it was very interesting. And the session from both the opening speakers, I think Ganesh made some very interesting points. I have made a few notes of that, so I'll throw some questions to you folks around that. And then again, I'm from the construction industry, so it was good to hear terms like MEP, etc. during the Blue Star presentation, something I can relate to as a part of Kalpataru's daily discussions which we have. So I think I'll start off with a common question, if you don't mind, and then maybe we pick up specific ones for each of you. Your industry, BFSI, is probably right at the center of this AI revolution. You are very large transaction-driven, technology-driven, heavily regulated industry. So if I look at AI making a visible difference in the organization, which pockets do you see heavy AI adoption, and where do you see a lot of work yet to happen in your particular organizations? Maybe we can start off with you, Binit.
Good morning to everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. See, I agree, bank and pharma, we also discussed about it. So these are the two industry which has most of the data generated for obvious reason. When it comes to AI, see, AI is based out of what data. So the moment you have data from the business, from whichever side, within the bank, not every side generates so much of data, right? So there are transaction, so there are business side. Within that, there are different type of transaction which UPI coming in. There are immense growth in that transaction volume also. Similarly, there are different type of data sets generated for different businesses. So depending on the type of data you are generating, structured, unstructured, and how curated those data are, the AI use case will be satisfying those data and getting some value out of it. Now, to be very specific, it would be very difficult to share, but as a low-hanging fruit, some of the very key area are governance. The other could be very interactive, agentic AI type of activity, where you do not have any regulatory impact, you don't have any access customer impact, but you have something very similar. For example, a lot of documents, which at least in PSU banks, a lot of documents comes in a size of 40, 50 GB, some is 500 pages, 800 document, 1000 pages document. It becomes really difficult to even read and go through. It takes days to read. So putting those documents, getting a summary of it, that's a very, very basic use cases. But something similar in governance, something similar in search criteria, something similar in customer. So I have, let's say, a website having different product, but nobody is aware what are the product offering we have in bank. Nobody is, I mean, it's not nobody is aware, but it's very, very difficult for everybody to know all the product and the product which is suitable. So earlier it used to be a call, now it is simple AI which helps. So we are implementing these in this area to be very low-hanging fruit.
I'll give in context in the real estate industry, since Anarock is in that space. So our focus, or where we've seen maximum traction, is where we are focusing on increasing our sales and business and hence revenues. Because that's where logically there is a buy-in across the organization, across the functions. For example, the efforts have been more on the sales, marketing, that piece. So it is right from, say, AI-based lead scoring to studying the behavior of customers to figure out customers who failed, who should have bought, reviving them, and hence having more residential bookings or real estate bookings. Or, for example, on the generative AI side, we see a lot of traction where during the night time we have leads which get generated. So a lot of social media leads actually get generated post, say, 9 PM, where you really can't call them, right? And by the time it's morning, you are too late to call them. So There you have agents, AI agents who kind of interact with the customers and schedule site visits for them. Just to throw, we've started this about a year ago, and across the projects we work on, we've actually seen a 28% increase in site visits. If I look at leads to site visit ratio, which for us is before leads to booking, leads to site visit is where technology or AI can play a part. In India, even today, site visit to booking is human. People visit, understand, and then book. So lead to site visit, which typically used to be about 10%, has gone up to close to 13%. So that while it's 3%, but overall it's about 28% in absolute terms. So that is where we've seen a huge impact.
I think one thing to remember is that AI is not new. It has always existed. I think what has changed between before and now is the LLM aspect of it. So the natural language processing is a lot more easier now than it was before. Like earlier, if I had a chatbot, it would have to be a rule-based chatbot. If the user asks this, this is the answer you give. But now the natural language processing makes it a lot easier. From an AI standpoint, like I think what we are seeing, obviously the models that are used in fraud space and other marketing personalization, they've existed for a long time. The areas where we are seeing new foray is, our employers are as much a bank financial industry as they are a tech company, I think. We have a lot of technologists with us. The code writing itself, with the Copilot and things, other such tools, that is becoming very, very fast. So the turnaround time on these aspects are very, very fast. Then it is basically touching everything, it is very soon going to be like electricity. You wouldn't even know that you are interacting with an AI. So we launched something called an LLM suite, which is nothing but a secure platform for most of our employees to access large language models. And you would interact with an LLM suite the way you interact with ChatGPT on your phone. So for example, I am due to write my self-assessment, by tomorrow, end of day. And I've just noted down my pointers, and I have a prompt which is ready there, which I can input and say, okay, these are my accomplishments. Go and write me a write-up which is balanced, and it identifies the 3-4 pillars that I have, and it just gets done. But before, if this was not there, it was at least a 2-hour job that I would have to put forward and make sure it happens. Similarly, on the operational side, there is going to be impacts on call centers. There is back office optimization, as Varun said, The bot doesn't stop. It's not like a bot doesn't need a break, right? So once you've figured out what are the aspects that you can put in bot, those processings, they keep happening, per se.
Well, firstly, thanks for having me here. So 2 things, Saugata, I must say, before I get into the direct answer processes or AI. I think AI as a concept will impact every process, every function. It's just that in some places we have thought about the use cases first, in some we are yet to think of it. There are 2 things that has happened in the Indian market, and that we need to be cognizant about. One is that the digital evolution that has come to hit us, especially post-COVID, is immense. Like now, sitting here, I can tell how many people are sitting here, somebody is noting down which app, some app is noting down where you are, and all that thing is happening. The India Stack story is a story which the world has recognized. So this has happened. The second thing is fantastic work over a period of time. The data, a couple of people who spoke before us spoke about how the data storage has become easy. So this huge volume of transaction data, 5 or 10 years back in a bank environment, I would be asked, do you really want to save 5 years data, 2 years data? I don't get this question now. Nobody asked about this question. It is assumed it is there. So now coming to these 2 things, and so there is something like where the AI is really making a difference is to find a needle out of this haystack. Now, all processes are changing, whether we like it or not. Some of it we can see, some of it we haven't seen. Like to give you an example, many of the banks have a bank statement, will have a forget the bank statement. Since both of us are from Bihar, at some point in time, we'll have an electricity bill from Bihar, which was not, maybe written in Hindi 15 years back, but now that can be brought, read, understood. You look at how the data models are happening. So the data model gets an impact that it's at a particular place in Patna, in Rajendranagar, where the average income, which is secondary data. So the primary data, secondary data, all of this is coming together, and that's why it's impacting a lot of processes. The other thing that has happened is your data models somewhere are changing hugely changing from a BFSI world. How is it changing? Earlier, we used to look at what has happened in the past. It should happen, so I will have a metric saying that, why is a bad guy? Can I find a bad guy in the population and start modeling it? But now with this digital evolution, that scenario would happen once in a lifetime. Means suddenly you will have a spike in volume coming from somewhere, some IP which is trying to do. These are things that your models have not been seen, or it's an event, it's a rare event. And this is where your anomaly model detections, these things are coming in. And whether we like it or not, maybe we talk more about the marketing cases, maybe we talk more about the operations cases, but every single thing is going through a transformation, and how we as professionals keep ourselves abreast and the team below us is the thing. Who thinks first is the critical piece. Whether he's sitting over there thinks it first, or I think it, or somebody else is thinking for us, we don't know. But it's an ongoing thing.
So yeah, I think good points. I think if I summarize what you guys have highlighted, I think a lot of focus on public customer-facing transactions where AI is enabling us to do things faster and better. I think you touched upon that it allows us to start off with a base and then build on top of that. That's increasing productivity across departments. I think Abhishek, you highlighted the fact that we can look at large volumes of data and pinpoint certain specific anomalies and build strategies around that. So I think that's where probably the growth in infrastructure, the growth in compute power has really allowed us to unlock the AI value in the last few years. So thank you for that. I think if you look at the topic and maybe some of the things Ganesh highlighted, collaboration is a big part of AI. So I have largely worked in manufacturing and maybe in infrastructure, where the tech team still is very much focused on coding and efficiency around the responses, etc. Whereas the business team is very much focused on results. And sometimes there is a dichotomy in that because the understanding of the 2-3 players in the game is different. Probably it's easier for you in financial services where technology is a part of the business, but how do you drive collaboration across different functions? Maybe the data scientists, the tech guys, maybe your partners. How does that happen in your ecosystem? Maybe Shweta, we can start with you.
Sure. So I think we have to recognize that we can no longer work in silos. I cannot be in a data organization and keep refining this data product, which is going to be awesome. I have to be sitting in a place where I have business. I can fail fast. If I have come up with if I have a new product, I can test it with the business, I can get results, quickly pivot with the new incoming information. So it is very, very important for organizations to create common platforms where technology, data, business, and design, they can come together and sit together. Every new feature that you're going to launch, it goes through a review of all of this. It's not just about launching a new feature on the credit card. There has to be data pipelines that get built so that operations has easy access to data from day one. They're not scampering to service those customers. So one is common platforms, that is very, very important. Second, I think, is that for data programs specifically, it is very important to have metrics which are tied to a business OKR. What is my lead generation model helping me achieve, as Varun said, there has to be an uptick that I tried. My metric that I track as a data lead cannot be that I generated 100 leads. What did those leads help the business to accomplish? I think there has to be a strong tying up between this. And then thirdly, I think, there has to be a cross navigation of talent. people who have been sitting in, who have been leading operations, they have to come in technology and understand how does technology work, and vice versa. People who have been leading technology, they have to come and lead operations so that they understand some of those pains firsthand. Cross navigation of talent at a senior level, that really, really helps drive collaboration, drive more empathy and understanding of how can we solve this faster, better, cheaper, sooner.
Fantastic. So I'll just pick up one term and maybe put it to you, Abhishek. You are a part of a very large conglomerate. Cross navigation of talent, especially at a senior level. Indian corporates have not really been much into that, over the time. Is that changing now? Do you see that happening much more now?
I think again, like Shweta mentioned, personal opinions here, but I think yes, there is a change. And how is it changing? Let me reflect back on what happens. Like Shweta, just taking in from where Shweta left, you have an overall organizational goals, and below those goals you kind of match it, because the other option is, which a number of organizations I see doing, is to have large teams, innovation labs, where when people come in, they say, oh, these guys are working in those silos, I don't know what's happening. These guys are doing something. Something will come up in 2 years, 3 years' time. Maybe the very senior management knows, nobody else. Whereas the other thing is, like she mentioned, you have a set of goals and you kind of have AI data, everything coming in. Now, once you do that, what happens is there's a business buy-in, because it's going to solve a live business problem. Once it does, what works very well, and what over the years I've seen work well, and where this cross-pollination comes in, is you have data champions in various business teams also. Not only in business teams, support functions also, HR being one, finance being the other, because it is again going back to the first comment, there are processes there in finance which can be automated. There are processes in HR that can be automated, nobody has spoken to them. Now what happens is when you have these smaller data champions across, they kind of are the key drivers of whatever the central team or the so-called analytics team is doing in their respective function. They become accountable. There's a KRA for them to work towards that goal. In that sense, they backward integrate and understand, say, what my team is doing or what the analytics team is doing, so they have some understanding. Overall, what tends to happen is, over a period of time, what I'm seeing now is that you may not get into a coding role, because that's something you, either you do it in the first 10 years, I might be wrong, but my personal opinion is either you do it in the first 5-6 years or you can't do it. But where you can add value is the business analyst role. When you come in and do a business analyst role, or somebody from the analytics team crosses over to the product team and develops a product calculator, then there is a thing. The third thing that tends to work very well is have regular conversations on what is going on in the organization, which helps not only at a very senior level, I would say at a mid-management level also, and that becomes a part of town halls, that becomes a part of your monthly meetings, that what's happening on the data side. These are the 3 objectives that we had. Here are we on it. And if there's somebody who wants to come forward and come for this project, you do it. And believe me, what happens now is youngsters cross over and they are willing to do it. And finally, last but not the least, is there is a certain, somebody mentioned it, a friend, that you cannot escape it. Now everybody, earlier if I used to not like a meeting, I would say it's an API call, and nobody would question that, oh, okay, something he knows more than me kind of thing. But now forget the API, I think most of the models, they will come back and say that, okay, what is the area under curve, so people have picked up. And I can see the transformation. Business leaders are asking for numbers from the models. Can it be fine-tuned? Can it be more optimized? These are the conversations happening. So literacy is going up.
So maybe again on the very similar line, Binit, if you look at competition, I think in your industry especially, if there is an innovation which happens leveraging technology, the replicability of that is very, very quick. So how do you use AI as a strategy to differentiate yourself from others? When in the market today, everybody sees something and wants everybody else to provide that. How does AI help you become different to your competition?
That's a very fair question. See, I just to tell you, so I have come from private sector, from GCC world, and now just recently have joined IDBI. So I've worked in Morgan Stanley, I've worked in UBS, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers before joining. So it's the first time. So I can be, I can for sure tell you what has happened in past in other areas, GCCs, global companies versus what we are trying to do here. There is a difference. The difference is not only in terms of what you are trying to do. Of course, what you are trying to do is the reflection of what kind of customer you have, what industry you are in, what are the regulator, and what are the compliance you have to face it. Right? So if you see the journey of Indian bank, especially PSUs, and especially in our bank, to be very specific, the PSU to becoming private, so kind of customer and kind of services also changes, right? So the way you see competition at maybe 10 years from now versus today versus 10 years backward are different. Your competitor, bank is different, your competition to technology is different, your competition to product is also changing. So when you are a PSU, probably you have to push for some particular, amount or numbers to be catered for a particular set of people, which is not there in a private sector. But when you become a private, you have an option to choose or whether yes or no. So accordingly, product and accordingly services and technology changes. That happens. That's very common. So in our area, in this area, what I see is competition is definitely there. And one of the good thing I can tell you is at a very high level, not only in our bank, in most of the Indian bank, they have the management board has very clear and concise understanding about AI. They are highly focused on getting this implemented. RBI, regulator, all the regulators, along with all the banks participant are in sync. Now, the competition is just in terms of tools, utility, and services, what you are consuming. It's also in terms of what data you have. You have to understand this piece. So the kind of data which you have versus kind of services you can choose. I may choose, as most of us were talking about, I may choose X, a kind of services, for example, call center one. But do I have that system or data in place to even utilize it? Right? So depending on this, our competition is also changing. However, for us, what we are trying to do is, we have got much ahead. In fact, we are also trying to build in-house models. Right? We are also integrating with regulators model. We are among one of the top 5 banks which has implemented hourly basis mule, hunting live, and one of the model which has come from regulator. So among the rest of the bank, we are among the top 5. So that is naturally helping us to identify what the mule and what we should do, so to secure ourselves. The similar area where we do in terms of competition is there are a lot of customer interaction, there are a lot of customer base activity which we are pioneering. For example, call center piece, we are almost there where the calls from private sector which we get, even now I was getting a couple of calls saying, you're this, do you want this? And then that gets connected. So we are in the process of getting this. We are in the process of naturally transforming the way chat happens, the way email gets, replied back, analytics of email which comes from customer. So competition is not only in terms of product launch, competition is also in terms of services, what kind of services we are giving. And
makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. So Varun, if I come to you, I think property is a very physical business by nature. I think while others are more into products and services, I think in your business, it is not just chat GPT which is relevant from an AI or tech perspective. It is also how you leverage AI to give better experience to the customer. I think I'm from the same industry and a lot of focus in that. Could you highlight what you are doing in the customer experience side of things leveraging AI maybe?
So a couple of things. One, of course, is at the site where we are, has been there for quite some time, now become hygiene. But even within that, now you have VR, which is Gen AI based. So you have agents who are talking to you, guiding you, answering your questions while you are at the site. So those products have kind of started coming in. Even from a customer experience perspective, I would slightly go back to what I also mentioned earlier. We now have generative AI interacting with the client at different times. What do I mean by different times is, I gave an example of night leads. Because a lot of customers or prospects rather today don't want to speak to a human. They are more comfortable replying on a chat. So that is a lever we are using very effectively. It is not just night leads, it could be leads where customers or prospects are not responding. So after a couple of tries by either the pre-sales or the sales team, then they move into the chat mode. There is referral which is being used a lot. We are generating a lot of business through referrals using the bot. It's all generative AI. We've started but not seen a lot of success in voice calling, frankly, AI voice calling as yet. But on the bot side, various use cases where we are seeing, since we are from the same industry, a lot of channel partner engagement, we are seeing a lot of benefit using the chatbot, where channel partners are kind of even giving in leads because their experience is very different. There is a lot of transparency where I might be giving a lead as a channel partner right now. I will be told that the lead is already in the system, it's a duplicate lead. If not, I'll get a lead ID right there and then. So we are seeing a lot of traction from the channel partners, where contribution of channel partners has gone up because of the trust, transparency and experience they are seeing. Earlier they had to possibly call a sales human agent. He would enter their details into the system, then give them a lead ID and tag the lead to them. Today it's at the click of their button, there's no human involved. So those places is where.
Thanks, Varun. I'm conscious of the time, so maybe I'll just have one last question. I'll open it up, whoever wants to pick it up. I think Ganesh used the words ethical and guardrails. And the government is putting in a lot of structure around how you manage AI, especially when you're interacting with people. So regulations like data privacy or bodies like certain, they are going to be big players in this particular space now. What are the thought process around the impact of these regulations on your industry? I mean, because in many cases you will have structural changes in terms of how you do business. If I look at property, we do a lot of cold calling, we do a lot of third party, like you mentioned, calling, or in your case, people source a lot of data, right, wrong, I don't know, but that's how the industry works today. So structurally, do you see impact of these changes in government policies impacting your business? It's open to anyone.
I think that's a fair question, and I think, especially if I link it to what the DPDP Act is also coming across, there will be, it's bound to change. So one of the things that I think most organizations have started talking about is that when you're doing that, going back to the first principles, and when you're setting down what are your AI objectives for the year or for the next 3 years, you do a data discovery after that, and that's where you start breaking silos, because somebody has some source of data in the laptop, in some database somewhere, and people are coming together, putting it all together. And then you're baking it into a data layer, and you're building a data architecture and saying, look, these are the 5 things, and it's very important from a senior management perspective, and many people in this room, to call out what we won't do. And what we should not do, what is, and that's where the red line needs to be drawn up. Keeping in mind that that there is going to be this act that comes in, and there will be a lot of difference in the way we do our business today and what we'll do it in 6 months. The other thing that needs to change is the whole philosophy of the business also, because many people are using a certain, see what has also happened is, other than the India stack, a lot of alternate data has come in. Now in the alternate data space, I don't know whether somebody who's giving me that alternate data has actually taken the customer consent or not.
Correct.
People have built it in their models. Now either that models get revised, if it's maybe outside the model, it's much more easier. The second, the larger question is, will that company survive or not? If you are taking it from the India stack and it's from the source, it's a government-backed thing, you have the permission, so somebody has given a clear consent. But wherever there is no clear consent, there is a gray area that all of us are struggling with. Do we have the perfect answer? Yes. Maybe not today. As we go on, because even some of the clauses are getting, are worked upon by various partners, various consultants are looking into it, drawing the fine line, but definitely there will be some sort of a change. And mind you, these regulations are quite stricter than many of the European norms also. So it's not something that's not going to change. It's going to change the way our databases look like. And especially with what Varun was mentioning, the whole piece around, the social media data. It's a complete, forget the unstructured data that we have all created. How do we go about it? How do we, put this all together as a challenge that all of us, both from a data and the data modeling part of it.
Thanks, Abhishek. You want to add something, Binit?
So if you remember, when we were a kid, right? Kid as in just college pass out. So we would, so we would go and we'd develop anything. Anything what we see, let's develop it. So we start coding, that was the first practice, start coding, develop it, done. So that's how initially we have learned throughout initial couple of years. It continued for many years. If you relate this now, it's no. How this is going to impact is, you cannot simply take any use case and go in the market. You cannot simply take any product and go in market. You cannot simply take anybody's data and go in market or use it. So that's how it's going to change. So the regulator, so I'm building a data, AI COE also for the bank. And one of the key direction I have is governance first.
Correct.
You do rest of the things as an use case naturally, but governance first. Do not have hallucination, do not have biasness. How to make sure that you do not cross the line in getting this done.
Very
so that's very, very important for now.
I think two things which will, obviously things will change. One is, the first thing all of us need to focus on is that whatever data we are capturing is captured cleanly, is captured and used in the proper manner, because that is the only thing you will end up having as your own going forward to build models or to use it. So that is the first. A lot of times we don't even catch hold of that data cleanly or store it properly. Second, going forward, synthetic data is what will gain importance, if I may, because as and when there is a regulation or there is a limitation, regulation could be one of the things, but limitation to use data, you will need to look at other avenues. And while synthetic data people use, don't use, not sure, but going forward in the coming years, that is what I think will be slightly a game changer, still to reach levels where we get results close to real, but that's where things will move, I feel.
I just want to add that, like what Abhishek and Binit pointed out, like ethics is something which has to be embedded in the organization's culture. It just does not have to be AI specific, I think, we have a strong code of conduct that JP Morgan lives by, and all initiatives, including AI initiatives, are under that remit. The second is, I think there is going to be standing up of governance organizations. Like, you have to understand, this is new for the government as well as organizations to put forward. But there has to be an effort, and and those organizations have to be independent. that independence is very important. They have to be directly reporting into the chairman or the CEO that you have or the board of directors. They should not be influenced by the business outcomes that are at stake if you tweak it a little bit here. And thirdly, I think from a model standpoint, there is a very strong governance in terms of paperwork that goes inside of that model and the explainability of the models. Like there is going to be a lot of focus on that documentation.
Lovely. So I think we'll end here. I think the message is very clear that I think the leadership has to spell out what are the boundaries within which the business has to operate, and probably what allowed us to get here may not be the way forward. We'll really have to look at how we plan our business forward. So I don't know if you have time for questions, Shubhajit?
No, sir.
No worries. Thank you so much, audience. You've been very patient. Thank you, panelists. We had a great conversation.